And hello, this is Elliott Serrano for the Comics Waiting Room and the Comic Culture Warrior YouTube channel. I'm here at Chicago's Windy City Comic Con, the first one of its kind in a while. And I am joined here by Alex Wald. Alex, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Elliott.
I appreciate you taking the time to do this. We're here in the center on Halsted, where we have what you would call an old-time comic book convention. What do you think?
Right. I love it. It's in a gymnasium. The hardwood floors, a lot of space. There's a perfect-sized room for the crowd. A great mix of retailers and local talent. This is what a comic convention used to be back in the 70s and 80s.
You make reference to the 70s and 80s. For those who don't know you, I mean, you have been involved in comics for quite some time.
True.
I'm familiar with your background. I remember you from your days at First Comics. Can you take folks who may not know you through a bit through your history?
Sure. I wanted to get into magazine illustration, actually, after graduating from School of the Art Institute. Came at it a very roundabout way, ended up working in magazines doing production, and when First Comics had an opening for a production manager in the mid-'80s, early '80s, I jumped at the chance. Within a year, I was not only production manager, I ended up being art director when Joe Staten departed. Went on from doing that to doing assorted freelance when First folded and closed their doors in the early 90s.
And with First Comics, what were some of those titles that they did back then? I remember Warp.
Warp was the flagship title. Warp was actually a play directed by Stuart Gordon that was unique in theater because you had to come on multiple nights to see the whole story. So it was a serial play, and it had all the comic book trappings. The costumes were designed by Neil Adams. It got a lot of publicity at the time. First Comics as a publishing entity grew out of the play. It was initially intended to just do a merchandise item to capitalize on the success of the play. But the other titles that were soon added were Mars by Wheatley and Hempel, American Flag, of course, by Howard Chaykin. Mike Grell did John Sable freelance. There were many, many titles along the way.
They got Martin Pasco and Joe Staten revived E-Man with First Comics?
They did E-Man, although I think Marty left the writing chores at about the time I came into the company, and Nick Cuddy took over from Marty.
Right, that's right. After going between, let's say it was Charlton Comics and then...
Exactly. It had originally been Charlton Comics, and I think the property was owned by Joe. And Joe's done some post-First E-Man issues, I believe.
So what have you been doing in all this time? I mean, I see you've got a lot of artwork on display here for sale.
I've done, in addition to working with in comics, doing coloring and the occasional story, I have some clients overseas in Japan. You see that there's a number of Japanese superhero things. The company that produces Ultraman has hired me a number of times to do promotional art for them. I've also done some character design for their toy lines. In addition, I've done magazine illustration, promotional and commercial illustration, a lot of record packaging. This is one of the record packages for a Japanese girl group called Super Snaz.
I love the Estrus.
Estrus is the record company that used me a number of times, at least a dozen times. This one actually, the record, I don't have copies of the record anymore. The record was packaged here, and I did covers, letters page, and an 8-page comic story featuring the band. And I'd be embarrassed to tell you how little money I got for doing this thing. It took me months.
It's a lot of work there.
It was a lot of work, but they sent me a box of 1,000 pieces.
Okay,
that's the last of it now.
That's not bad for comps.
No. It's as if I did it for the comps.
Well, don't most freelancers do it for the comps these days?
10 years later, I still got copies, so there's nothing wrong with that.
So what else is going on with you right now? Any exciting projects you have coming up?
Actually, we mentioned Joe Staten a while ago. I have a story coming up with Joe. I'll be coloring a Flash Gordon story.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm not sure who the publisher is, quite frankly.
There's a new company that just got the license.
Okay, yeah, you've read something about it. I just got a script. I haven't even seen the artwork yet.
Okay.
But they're doing an original Flash Gordon anthology, and a lot of different artists are going to be contributing. And Joe asked if I was available to do it, and it's like, I'm like a hardcore Flash Gordon fan from the time I was a very little kid. So, I couldn't possibly turn it down.
Okay.
But yeah, looking for more comic coloring and covers, and hopefully some more like overseas licenses.
You've been in the business for a very long time. What's your perspective on it right now? How do you think comics are going to do now? Let's say now and say into the next decade.
My gut reaction is that people will want comics. That comics are an art form that is finally being recognized and given its due, and that the demand for it will always be there. It may be diluted or diversified when it's transferred to other media like cinema, but I think that's actually like a strong point. But they're going to have to still keep coming back to the source comics for inspiration, for direction. So I don't see comics ever disappearing completely. It may continue to mutate somewhat. Certainly the economics of the small publisher is got to be really desperate right now. It's costing more and more to do less and less copies all the time. And unless you're like a major New York publisher, that's got to be backbreaking, for the enterprising amateur. But there's still an amazingly diverse array of titles out there every month. So I think on some level, the spirit to survive is still strong.
Any advice you have for folks who are like at the age that you were at when you were getting started in comics? You wanted to be in comics, you wanted to work in them. The industry has changed, hasn't changed. What advice do you have for those younger folks who want to get into this industry?
It's tough. I'm of two minds about it. It's like I'm as many things the ambivalence is like hard to escape. If you're looking for practical advice for a young person, anything but comics. Don't even think about it. It's like your parents will weep bitter tears of shame that their child has become a comic artist. On the other hand, it's like if the drive is strong and you've got the talent and you're getting positive feedback from people, work. Draw all the time. Don't ever stop. Refine your craft. It's the only way to succeed at anything is to give it 100% of your passion, And if you do it for comics, good luck. Don't say I didn't warn you, but if you are going to do it, give it everything.
All right. Well, Alex, thank you.
Elliott, it's been a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure to see you. So on that note, a cheerful note of sorts, we'll draw this to a close.
I'm not going to lie, people.
This has been Elliott Serrano for the Comics Waiting Room. Thanks for joining us.